a lot of the stuff that I do falls under what's called program evaluation. Essentially, I'm doing development economics. You try to figure out what works for development in developing countries, in low-income countries, and to do that, we have to figure out interventions, policies that might work. Um, so most of the stuff that I am trying to do is finding causal impacts of policies, different tweaks on interventions that might work for improve aspects of development, and uh, a lot of the focus is essentially human capital and social capital in the types of work that I do. For instance, I have a set of studies on schools, so especially in sort of like villages and sort of like remote villages, because remote villages, Indonesia is very, a lot of my studies is in Indonesia, and Indonesia is very varied, and um, some of the villages are very remote, and being in remote villages often means that you don't get monitored very well by the government. And we are trying to test interventions that might improve sort of like teacher performance in these villages where governments officials, sort of like the school inspectors, don't inspect very much. um, One of the things that I do in my research is to use sort of like the gold standard in program evaluation, what's called the randomized control trial. What we do there is basically, um, it's almost like a drug test, right? If you want to test a particular drug, you want to give certain intervention to random people and a placebo to a set of random people. We do this with basically teacher interventions. And what we do in the research that I do is, given that in these remote villages, some of the teachers are often absent without any recourse from the school district, we would like to have parents sort of like help monitor the teachers and give the monitoring results directly to the school officials or to the district officials, and then they would be able to sort of like adjust the payoff. So sort of like a pay for performance type of stuff. That's a research that we've been working with the government, and it has been like 5 years trying to set up the research from the beginning up until we get the final data, and we're working on the preliminary results, and the results seem to suggest that this type of what we call in development lingo community-driven development, community-driven monitoring, actually can work pretty well in incentivizing and sort of like increasing teacher performance, at least in sort of like improving learning outcomes, increasing their absenteeism, and so on.